defined in terms of food availability, food access, and food utilization. Food availability is achieved when sufficient quantities of food are consistently available at all individuals within a country. Such food can be supplied through household production, other domestic outputs, commercial imports, or food assistance. Food access is ensured when household and all individuals within them have adequate resources to obtain appropriate food for a nutritional diet. Importance of food security. Food security is important because number 1, everybody has to eat. The obvious should not go without saying. Our dependency on food is so central that we often do not consider it or who is benefiting and who is paying. Number 2, food is a basic human right. Canada is a signatory to the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 25 includes the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care. Human rights leaders around the world are concerned about the actions of global institutions like the World Trade Organization that violate these and other human rights. Number 3, food is the basis of a community's economy. Food is the basic element of community self-reliance. It provides jobs, enhances cultures, enables community, and supports public health. Because of its essential nature, agriculture and food keeps going when other industries fail. For every farmer, there are many related jobs in processing, distribution, sales, and food preparation.
There are 4 existing pillars of food security: the physical availability, economic and physical access, food utilization, and stability, which I will explain in this video. First and foremost, the physical availability of food refers to the supply side of food security. Additionally, it is identified by the level of food production, stock levels, and net trade as well. Meanwhile, economic and physical access to food states that a sufficient supply of food, whether national or international level, does not guarantee a household level of food security. Concerns about insufficient food access have caused greater policy focus in terms of income, expenditure, markets, and prices in attaining food security objectives. Furthermore, food utilization is commonly known as the way our body makes the most out of different food nutrients. Good care and feeding practices, food in preparation, diversity of that diet, and intra-household distribution of food results to an adequate energy and nutrient intake by a person. More than that, the nutritional status of individuals is determined when combined with good biological utilization of consumed food. Lastly, stability of the other 3 dimensions over time states that even if your food intake is presently enough, you're still considered to be food insecure if your access to food is insufficient on a periodic basis. Create a risk of deterioration of your nutritional status. Addition to this is adverse weather conditions, political instability, or economic factors may possibly affect your food security status.
Food security occurs when all people are able to access enough safe and nutritious food to meet their requirements for a healthy life, in ways the planet can sustain into the future. However, food security faces a number of things that affecting food security across both production and consumption, which research will be essential to solve. Many countries are facing the double burden of hunger and undernutrition alongside overweight and obesity, with 1 in 3 people across the globe currently suffering from some form of malnutrition. Indeed, it is not unusual to find people with different forms of malnutrition living side by side in one country in one community or even in the same household. The, prefe- the prevalence rates of overweight, obesity, and diet-related non-communicable diseases such as cardiovascular disease, stroke, certain cancers, and type 2 diabetes are increasing in every region, in both developed and developed countries. Globally, there are now more people who are overweight or obese than underweight, with the two combined accounting for more than half of the world populations, a new normal. The estimated cost to the world economy of disease and death from overweight and obesity is $2 trillion. At the same time, around 795 million people face hunger on a daily basis and more than 2 billion people lack vital micronutrients affecting their health and life expectancy. Nearly a quarter of all children aged under 5 today are stunted, with diminished physical and mental capacities, and less than a third of all young infants in 60 low diversity standards never for growth. Climate change will only make things worse as elevated levels of CO2 reduce the nutritional content of grains, tubers, and legumes affecting key nutrients such as zinc and iron. The estimated impact of undernutrition on gross domestic product (GDP) is 11% every year, more than the annual economic downturn caused by the global financial crisis. A growing population means more mouths to feed. The expanding global population is getting wealthier, and richer people tend to eat more and demand food that is resource intensive to produce, particularly meat and dairy. It has been estimated that we need to produce more food in the next 35 years than we have ever produced in human history, given the projected increases in world population and on the basis that rising incomes will continue to change diets. Climate change can also alter the distribution and severity of pests and diseases in crops and livestock and has the potential for severe impacts on food production and animal welfare. Around a third of the food produced in the world for human consumption every year gets lost or wasted, whether early in the supply chain through pests and diseases and post-harvest losses or late in supply chain at retail and consumptions. This impacts on how much we might need to produce in the future. A major challenge is understanding how can we redesign the food system to be healthy, sustainable, and more resilient to climate change, helping to meet both the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement. The Global Food Security Program brings together the major UK public funders to address these challenges, increasing coordination and collaboration and research in facilitating its translation into policy and practice. The obvious reason is that everybody needs food, but the complexity of delivering sufficient food to a national population and to the whole world's population shows why food security is such a priority for all countries, whether developing or developed. 1. Population growth. This varies considerably across countries. Africa is expected to double its population from 1 to 2 billion by 2050. Populations in the developing world are also becoming increasingly urbanized, with 2.5 billion additional urban residents projected in Africa and Asia. Number 2. Changing taste. Not only is the population growing, but its diets changing too. As people become more affluent, they start eating food that is richest in processed foods, meats, and dairy. But to produce more meat means growing more grain. Number 3. Climate change. Currently, 40% of the world's landmass is arid, and rising temperatures will turn yet more of into desert. At current rates, the amount of food we're growing today will feed only half of the population by 2050. Number 4. Water scarcity. This is another impending crisis. 20% of agriculture lies in water. Stressed regions. It takes roughly 1,500 liters of water to produce a kilogram of wheat and about 16,000 liters to produce a kilogram of beef. In 2050, we'll need twice as much water. Number 5. Troubled farmers. In developed countries, less than 2% of people grow crops or breed animals for food.